First up, we've got the latest inflation figures. Inflation shot up to 15.7% in February as a result of significant jump in food prices. Food inflation regained its dominance, recording 17.4% year-on-year inflation as against 14.5% by non-food inflation. This is, however, the first time the rate has shot up significantly since this government assumed office in 2017. Here is government statistician Professor Samuel Kwabneni addressing journalists.
Year-on-year inflation, that is from February 2021 to February 2022, rate of inflation stood at 15.7%, which is a 1.8 percentage difference between the rate recorded in January 2022 relative to the 15.7 that is being recorded for February 2022. This indicates that prices of goods and services over the one-year period have gone up by 15.7%. On a month-on-month basis, that is between January 24% relative to 2.1 that was recorded between December 2021 and January 2022. Food inflation has regained its dominance over non-food inflation from both a month-on-month perspective and a year-on-year perspective. From a year-on-year perspective, it has regained its dominance by 2.9 percentage points, and on a month-on-month basis, it has regained its dominance by 1.5 percentage points. Housing, water, electricity and gas, transport, and food and non-alcoholic beverages are the 3 divisions out of the 13 divisions that did record inflation figures higher than the national average of 15.7%. Specifically with housing, water, electricity and gas, 25.4%, transport 18.3%, and food and non-alcoholic beverages 17.4%.
Well, and it doesn't look like it's going to get any better. Joining me to discuss is Director of ISA, Professor Peter Quartey, also economist with Data Bank Research, Courage Bote. I want to begin with you, Professor Peter Quartey. Your thoughts on the latest figures? Not surprising, is it?
Yes, I'm not surprised at all, especially considering what we are seeing within the global community, the oil price increases we are witnessing. Early part of 2021, a barrel of oil was around $45. Now we are told it's around $130. So clearly, it tells you that there is increased global increase in inflation, global increase in prices, and of course, supply of certain raw materials, fertilizers, and what have you. So all of this affects the real sector, and that is what we are witnessing now.
Well, what would you say to those who say, yes, of course, there are external factors, things happening, but much of this also has to do with how the economy has been managed over time? We've seen that we are in a bit of a crisis.
For every economy, that is why we plan. And therefore, with such shocks, we should be able to minimize the effects of such shocks on the citizenry. And I believe certain key interventions are critical. So investing in agriculture, for instance, to support the real sector in order to minimize the effect on inflation. So we increase supply of agri or food, for instance, very, very critical. Then also some of the price build-up. If you look at the price build-up, there are some levies. We have the energy sector levy, we have sanitation and pollution levy. Perhaps it's about time government looks at some of these levies and either reduces it or takes it off completely, just to minimize, to reduce the effects on the citizenry.
And we'll come to that so that you can give a bit more detail. But I want to turn to Courage. A significant jump from 13.9% in January. And it's a sign of things to come, Courage. Courage, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. Given the kind of environment we have now, the price build-up, like Prof alluded to, you look at where fuel prices are now, a jump to over 130, and we've seen at the pumps, we are now crossing the 8 cedi per liter mark. We've seen the extent of cedi depreciation so far this year, over 14% depreciation, and this is the worst start to the year for the cedi. So it tells you that the pass-through of fuel price hikes and of course the cedi depreciation to general prices on the market is quite real. And that is what we are seeing translating to higher inflation on the market. Now, if you look at it, in the area or regard that the depreciation is showing no sign of slowing down. Fuel prices are going up and up and up. And with the Russia-Ukraine situation and the imminent bans on crude oil export from Russia and all of that, we are even bound to go more than where it is now. It will take maybe some time for favorable base effect to start pulling it down again. So yes, it's just, I believe at this point, it's a sign of things to come, but it also speaks to the general malaise, the global economy is facing. Countries like the US, who have a long-term or a medium-term inflation target of around 2%, and now doing about 7.5% inflation. And a lot of other countries are also running higher than or ahead of their target, really. So it tells you on the other hand, that it's a global problem and not a Ghanaian problem per se. But our local solutions, I think our institutional structures have been exposed in this area. With oil pricing going up, I think the whole idea of putting up busts and then the whole value chain of petroleum procurement in Ghana is actually exposed, because we are very exposed to the price surges on the world market now. And that is because we do not have adequate strategic stock in place to pushing ourselves. This year, we haven't been to the urban market, and so we do not have enough dollars. Even if our reserves is quite strong, 9.9 billion at the last count, you are talking of a net reserve of about 6 billion. And it limits the extent to which the Bank of Ghana could come to the market to even out volatility, really. Because if you do it aggressively, you are exposing yourselves to external shocks should some emerge in the future. And the fact that the concerns about fiscal policy seem to be driving away foreigners from the market, all of these are playing a role in why the cedi is in a free fall, and of course, its passage to inflation. And so it's a sign of things to come.
Oh, the cedi. We'll talk about that in a bit. But I want to turn to Prof, because you were talking about some of the things government can do, like invest in the agri sector. The real is headed to in terms of direction. Yes, they've tried with the Planting for Food and Jobs initiative and some other initiatives in the agri sector. Do you think that the government is looking toward that direction now, and does that give any hope?
Well, I think it's an area government is investing in, except to say that it could do more in terms of investing more in large-scale commercial agriculture, supporting the value chain process. So we don't just provide fertilizers or inputs, but also look at the credits, the storage, and so on and so forth. So we do it in a much more coherent and consistent manner. So that's one way to go. I think the BDCs should also be engaged. The government has to engage the BDCs to look at their margins. If some of the margins can be moderated, we could do that, because we are not in normal times, and therefore we don't expect any firm or business to reap in supernormal profit. This is the time for all of us to sacrifice so we build our economy. In terms of the exchange rate depreciation, yes, we are very much right. The rate of depreciation last year was around 4.6, less than 5%. This year, in the first quarter alone, we are seeing a depreciation of over 14%. That is very huge and significant. However, we also ought to, as Ghanaians, should be circumspect. I think there is too much speculation happening. Every now and then, there is that agitation about exchange rate depreciation, and so people are hoarding the dollar. Those who have CDs are converting into dollar, and that will not help the economy if everybody shies away from the local currency and would rather store foreign currency as a store of value. So we all have to play our part in ensuring that we don't fuel the speculation too much. Again, government revenue is critical. If government is not able to rake in the needed revenue to finance its expenditure, it will resort to borrowing again with high interest rates. And once we have huge fiscal deficits, the economy will not be able to withstand some of this shock. So I believe certainly there are way out of there's a way out of this. Your domestic policy should be structured in a way to cushion you in times of a pandemic, in times of any economic shock. That is where I think we should figure that out. Bank of Ghana cannot continue pumping in dollars because if there is so much speculation, whatever you put in is like you are pouring water into the water. Whatever we put in stays within. Otherwise, people will continue to hoard the foreign currency, and Bank of Ghana cannot continue to support us the way we expected.
Okay, and just because we are talking about the city, I want to throw in this about the rate of depreciation, as was reported yesterday, that it doubled within just a week to 14.21% in the first week of March. Let me turn to you, Courage Buti. As you talk about, Prof talked about the fact that we are not in normal times. The last time I heard that was during the peak of the pandemic, but it looks like we have to grapple with another situation, the Russia-Ukraine war and its impact globally. What are the long-term implications for our economy if this should go on and there's no resolution to the war or the impasse we are seeing between both countries?
Well, U.S. is the largest producer or the biggest producer of crude oil globally, and after them is Russia. Now, so take out Russia's supply from the market, which seems to be the way the global leaders are going, as a way of sanction to respond to what Russia is doing in Ukraine, when we are actually and sadly net importers of refined oil. And so we are directly exposed to the price changes on the market. And with sanctions and then Russia withdrawing their supplies on the global market, what happens is a supply shock. And I do not think we have enough strategic talks with the BDC or the Boston and all the others to be able to withstand any set. And that is why we are seeing the prices at the pumps surging every day. And so the longer this runs, I know there are peace talks underway. I know some other global leaders are playing a role to try to bring it to an end. Hopefully that ends soon, but I do not see the sanctions going away immediately. What that means is that as it is now, we are exposed to a heavy external risk that could actually push oil prices, maybe sustain the increase up to some point. It might correct ultimately, but it won't be sharp. We can't be talking about the $67, $70 per barrel anytime soon, really. Which means that export prices will remain high for a while. And oil import is one of the biggest things on import bill. I look at last year, 2021, and the oil import alone is about $1 billion in our total import. And so with the prices surging, you could talk of even more. And so it has even implications for the exchange rate, which is why we are seeing the inflation rate where they are, and it might even continue for maybe the next 3-4 months in this kind of trajectory. Hopefully not a 1 point something jump in a month, but the trend might continue. And we need to, as a nation, begin to look at things differently, like Prof said. Yes, we are not in normal times, but the solutions to some of these things, reducing vulnerability to some of these external shocks, is not in a day or two. So calm heads must prevail. We must put institutional structures in place. I think that a company like Tema Oil Refinery has outlived its purpose. I think this is time for Ghana to invest in an oil refinery. This is time for Ghana to feed the oil refinery with its takes or its liftings of crude oil from our shores, so that we can feed our local market with Ghanaian produced refined oil. It is long overdue. It's something we need to look at. We need to look at our ways and procedures for building reserves. Because the bank, we operate a flexible exchange rate regime. It is a dirty. Bank of Ghana can step into iron out volatility, but it's by no means they determining the exchange rate. And the ability to do so depends on how much reserves there are and what the estimation of demand may be along the way. If there are frivolous demand, like Prof alluded to, you don't want to be pumping in the exchange rate or the reserves that way. Otherwise, you'll be feeding those frivolous demand, and you may be found wanting in a time where you need it most. And so we need to look at that national conversation again to see what is our holistic approach towards solving some of these things, to reduce our exposure to some of these external shocks.
Thank you, Courage. Prof, I'll let you have the last word just in 30 seconds. Calm heads should prevail. How should businesses and individuals respond to this?
Well, I think as for the surge is likely to happen, and individuals use electricity or other sources of energy as and when the need arises. You don't leave your lights on, you don't burn fuel if you don't have to travel. And I believe carpooling and many other things can be explored in this moment because prices are very high and businesses will have to look at alternative sources of energy that perhaps would reduce the cost of their bills or the cost of consumption. But I must say that what is happening would also affect agriculture significantly because um, Russia produces a lot of fertilizers, the synthetic fertilizer that uses a lot of gas. And looking at what is happening, our fertilizer imports bill would go up, and it's going to affect agriculture. It's going to affect many other parts of the economy because it depends a lot on imported items, and that will have significant effect on our cost of production and fuel further inflation.
It doesn't look good, but we'll keep calm. Thanks very much, Professor Peter Quartey, Director of ISA, and Courage Puti, who is an economist with Data Bank Research. You're watching The Marketplace. Still to come, making the best out of a difficult situation. We'll tell you how Patience Blebo became a manufacturer of the local macrame bag. Welcome back. Now, after failing to gain admission into the university, Patience Blebo decided to make the best out of a difficult situation. She started her local macrame bag business. My colleague James Ishen has been following her story.
Make lemonade when life gives you lemon. We are here in Teshi to speak to a lady who decided to start her personal business after several attempts of failing to gain admission into the university. Let's interact with her. Almost every graduate wishes to continue their education, enroll in the university, take their desired courses and graduate with a good class. But this was different for Patience Blebo, a senior high school graduate who couldn't make it to the university with her year group and resort to expanding her macrame bags business she started in SHS.
Do stuff like this. I love handmade accessories. I love making them with my hand. So this is what I do.
At what point in time did you even think of starting something of this sort?
Okay, from SHS. All this came from SHS. I learned them from the SHS, and after I completed, I decided to learn more and then explore more on that field. So that's how I began this things. I did apply, but I couldn't get the admission to that place. So I decided to focus much more on these things and then move things to the next level. The schools I want to apply for is the KNUST or the Winneba. Yeah.
You're not discouraged after the previous ones?
No. I'm not discouraged because it's something I like to do and then I love to do, so I have to go into that field.
You pointed out you'd want to go back to school. What do you intend doing when you end up in school?
Okay, so the school I wanted to apply for is that Kumasi, KNUST, yeah, and the course I want to offer over there is industrial art, yeah, integrated rural art, yeah. So that's the school I want to, and then the course I want to offer.
Patience, who learned most of her designs from the internet and some from senior high school, takes us to how she gets her materials for making the macrame bags.
Getting the materials, I get them from Accra, Mokola, or sometimes I order them from Kumasi. So yeah, I order them from a lady in Kumasi and then they ship them to this place in Accra for me. The bags with the plates, I normally call them Nawula, like lady. And Ghana is Nawula, like
Nawula.
Awula is a lady. So I added the na to make it brothelize a bit. So with this type of bags, I call them Nawula. Yeah, that is this ones. Yeah. Yes, please. I call them Nawula because. And then with stuff like this too, with this, I don't have a name for it though, but it's just a school bag, like a school bag for ladies going to the uni and also market people, like beach bags. You can take this to the beach as well and then also go to school with it.
What are some of the materials you need to make something like this?
Okay, the things you need to make something like this are the plate. Sometimes it comes in a wooden plate. We have the wooden plate and then the plastic plate as well. And then you have your chains for the handle. Sometimes too, you might need a pearl, and then the O-ring. Some also uses the D ring or the square or whatever ring they want to use. And then you need your scissors and, to attach the body of the bag to the plate. You need something like this. It looks like a needle. So you need something like this to attach the distance to it. And then you need, most importantly, the cord. The PP cord or any other pliable material you need to use here. And then I also use this to hold the things in place so that they don't move around just like that for me.
With a brand name as Shike's Knot Designs, she says the business is really booming. She leverages on social media to get her customers.
I have an Instagram page which I normally post my stuffs over there. Instagram, Facebook, and then my WhatsApp. So those are the 3 places _knot. And then on Facebook is Shike's Knot without underscore, nothing. You just Shika, SHIKASKNOT. That's a knot, yeah.
Is it booming?
It's booming, but Ghanaians normally don't purchase they normally don't fancy stuff like this. But people who know the quality of these things purchase them. So I think it's booming.
Some of your challenges, and also you intend to go back to school. How are you going to juggle academics also with what the macrame you're also doing?
Okay, so one of the challenges I normally face is that getting the materials. You see, in Accra here, normally when you go to Makola, you don't get all the stuffs here, so you have to order them from Kumasi. Before they bring them here, you have to also pay certain things like money before getting the product here. Sometimes too, it could take 2-3 days. Even something like this, the cord, I didn't get it in Accra, so I had to order from Kumasi, which took I think 2 days before getting to this place, and that's one of the challenges. And also being a single person doing something like this too, maybe when a customer orders and you don't get it in time, it's also one of my challenges.
Consistency has been keeping her on her toes, regardless of the challenges she finds herself. In the next 5 years, Patience wishes to have a shop and train other young girls who have passion for handicraft.
Consistency and then determination. Yeah, and the passion for it. That keeps me going. Because if you think that maybe people don't love what you do, or Ghanaians aren't purchasing them, and then you stop somewhere, you wouldn't be able to get to wherever you want to be. But